Is that me? Did
I,
I?
no. This is not you. I would say that what would be required for us to do our thing would be to do, and this is not because I recommended it based on stealing it from some other game, would be to say that you say what it isn't and what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like what it isn't. Knock Richter is not about high fantasy, it is not impatient, and it is not safe. What it is gritty, it is sexy, it is consequential. You know, what you do is going to matter. Yeah, that's
If it
what
was a
Knock Richter.
TV show, it would have the disclaimer in the upper corner: contains violence, nudity, smoking, drug use, alcoholism,
And
And
foul language.
sexual
and
content,
it's
foul language, in parentheses, all the good shit.
well,
I got to go get some sleep, guys. I will
Thanks,
talk to you
John.
soon. Are we on for next week?
Yeah, I think we're weekly until otherwise noted.
Works
Oh, that
for
makes me
me.
so happy. Okay.
Good
thank
night,
you,
guys.
John.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
John.
Good night.
My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's
Game
see.
Master
Did
John
I get
Campbell,
it?
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, he has left the building.
I was hoping that I had everybody in place, and I don't.
Hmm?
Sorry, no, don't worry about it.
He's
I'm
Okay.
editing the stream.
I'm editing the stream so that I'm in the right spot.
Live, like while you're doing this? That's
I
awesome.
have to because it repositions on the fly.
On the
Let's see,
fly.
200,
I love it.
300.
I love it. You know, and if there was the ability to have where well, like what you just did, where we can see our player characters, I feel like because we're visual beings, that is a beneficial thing. One comment that I remember from Dwayne, it was a great role playing opportunity. Robin had just broken away from the group because she had been basically bashed by another character, and that was it, right? You might not know this because it was in the other group, the B team, as Bjorn says. So he bashed her because, well, perspective, right? So, like, from his perspective, she wasn't doing what she was told to do. From her perspective, she was being gutted by an Icenian, you know,
Special forces
soldier,
member.
special forces soldier, and therefore that was at the wrong person, and therefore trust was gone because that's who Robin is, right? I'm with my unit, you know. Anyway, so what was great was Dwayne, who isn't, who's a learning role player, comes in and tries to role play, does, but I mean, role plays, his character to talk to Robin, and he's looking at me on the screen and says, "Damn it, this is hard because you're a guy," and I'm acting like, right?
Here,
I'm
let
acting
me put
like
this in front
a
of my face.
right,
Yeah.
and actually that's what I said. I said, "Look at Robin's picture. I mean, look at her picture. Play against her. That's who I am right now. You're not talking to Ken. You're talking to Robin."
Hmm.
And you know what I mean? Like, it's not dudes talking. This is like a woman who's been hit, strong woman, but she's been hit and she's like, I don't trust you. Anyway, it was still a good scene, but I love that point where he went out of character and said, "Oh, can you grow like long hair or something? I can't do this."
Can
Can't
you
do.
look pretty, Ken?
Yeah,
Can
can you
you?
look pretty for me?
But that's the hard part, right? We're playing out of type, right? And for most of my role playing career after high school, we always played the same gender, right? And anybody who didn't play the same gender, you're like, really, you're going to make me try to suspend disbelief and look past you? And we've had forays into that before that just never worked out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I won't name names, but we've had some bad impersonations in the past, and even in this iteration, right? I feel it feels kind of weird to continue to inhabit that role. As a game master, it's easy, right?
You play so many
You
characters.
step into the role and you can bounce, and you spend moments or long minutes in a character, and you don't own anybody in particular. But as soon as we switched roles and John has taken over kind of running the adventures,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm spending prolonged periods as this 17-year-old girl, it's
You do it so good.
it's weird.
You do it so good. So, but that's the thing is inhabiting the role and
Mhm.
drawing out that character who you want to see on your mind's eye.
Mhm.
And the satisfaction comes so totally from the other person saying, I see that in the mind's eye, and
Yeah, when
I'll
they
add to
forget
it.
it's you and they're
Yes.
talking to the character,
Yes.
total victory.
Just,
Right. I
ju-
mean, yep. I mean, that's
you,
the challenge that I have with John. Is like I want him or you to role play with Robin.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just say, I mean, I see Blanca as
Yes.
there is so much between Benny and Blanca at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he sees her as somebody to protect, but also somebody who is the right hand, and this, you've saved me so many times, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that it's gone both ways, but
Yeah.
it's like absolutely rock solid reliable, yet her impetuousness when she's or precociousness when she gets this idea or
Yeah.
this thing, and she's like, I'm angry about something, I just
Yes.
watch her grab onto it and shake it or start doing stuff, and it's like, I don't really approve of this, but I'm not going to stop it.
I think Banny is the person who should have been in her household while she was growing up, right? Mom and dad were aloof. The staff, all the trainers, teachers, everybody else who could have given her some guidance or direction or put some walls up around her failed miserably. Banny was really the first person to box her in a little bit without making her feel trapped.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got this weird relationship where it's an uncle.
Good old Uncle Banny. But
Yeah, but
but
she doesn't respect people her age that much, right? She's got daddy issues. So both Bjorn and Banny are in her heart her equals, which means she wants to impress them. And that brings her into that strange space that makes both these men uncomfortable because now these 40
this
something year old men have this 17-year-old woman who's amorous towards them, but not really.
Right.
but
Playful
you
amorous.
you
Right.
said it perfectly. You said familiar. Familiar is a great term,
Mhm.
although yeah, Benny's gonna have to somehow come to terms with that somehow on his own
Yeah.
when she
Well,
Well, I mean, he
well,
does. He
go ahead.
diverts over easily because of his wife.
Mhm. Right. He's got a wall he can
he's
put up.
got
He can put up
protection,
a wall. Easy.
but
Yeah.
It's shields up. Yeah.
that hasn't always been the case, though. It was only when that wall went up that the relationship changed and became much more solidified in the friendship zone,
Right. Right.
Mhm.
but
Right.
it still doesn't break up that tension. And
Right.
now that there's glimmers of things on the around, yeah, we'll just leave it at
Yeah.
that.
So then, yeah, I would just contribute that. So then Robin enters into the blender, and yeah, I mean, frankly, Blanca is even as powerful and incredible as she is, psychologically, Blanca is the little sister who Robin never got to have.
Mhm.
She was separated in Bordeaux, when she was like 8 years old. So they fit together in a way which is like sisters do, which is like they love each other and they hate each other.
What are there, 11 years between them?
No,
9?
I'm saying when they were separated, oh,
No, I'm
between Blanca,
just yeah, the
Robin,
years between Blanca and Robin. How
20,
far?
27 and 17.
Okay,
10.
so 10 years.
So 10 years. Whereas Marianne, if she ever has a story to her, or a hook to get Robin and the group into something, Marianne was 3 years the younger sister, which is the reason why her auntie picked her. Robin was too strong-willed and older, so I'll give her to the orphanage in Ganf. And yeah, I'll take Marianne. You know, she can be molded,
Mhm.
whereas Robin was very much not moldable, and you know, right? That's kind of her archetype. She broke out of the orphanage multiple times as soon as she could, and it was only after she got basically broke over the head that she was like, okay, this is actually the way I need to figure out how to be in charge here, you know, amongst the kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, not try to just, I'm not going to survive here on the streets only by myself.
Yeah. So the arrangement between Robin and Blanca is interesting in that Robin's finding that little sister, but this one's made of dynamite.
Yeah,
Did,
yeah. And I never defined Marianne how she was, right? Because she would have been what, 5 when Robin was 8.
Yeah.
So
Probably
I left that just open to say what, however we want to develop that, frankly, you know.
there's probably not enough personality at 5 for it to have any real impression.
Yeah, it depends, right? Some kids are like really crazy even at like 4 years old, but you're right. So the bottom line is that from, I think, Robin's psychology, the fact that she was separated so young, even though there's this 10 years of difference, she never had that. I'm growing up with a little sister,
Mhm.
and she didn't have a childhood in a way that's different from Blanca. I mean, but Blanca had kind of like a, you know, she didn't have a childhood in the classical sense either. It's like, well,
it's true.
go off and do the schooling.
Yeah, parochial school, blah blah blah. Yeah, acting
Right.
out constantly. Well, when Robin moved in with Blanca in her suite in Oberisk, that was a really tough moment, right? Because Blanca wanted her independence, but she also feels vulnerable. She's not a physical threat really to anyone. And Banny and Bjorn are kind of
Oh,
The toughs.
the
protectors. Yeah.
yeah, they're the shield wall that she constantly stands next to and not behind because she's so confident in them, she doesn't hide. Now, Robin comes onto the scene, and at first it's kind of an awkward thing, but she sees Robin's power and she's like, "Fuck, Robin's devastating when she gets going."
When she gets focused.
Right. So now I've got this protector under my roof, and yeah, we are from totally different worlds.
Yeah.
And but Blanca needs Robin, doesn't want to need her, and that's why she's spiteful, right? That's why she does shitty things to her roommate.
That's fair. And Robin needs Blanca and does not acknowledge it either, because I think that it's more of a subconscious, I want to have the experience of having a little sister, protecting a little sister. I mean, like when we were in Bordeaux, right? All of us together in that whole thing, it was just an instinct where it's like, you know, she took Blanca, if you will, by the hand, and we ran across potentially a sniper fire, and she wanted to be the target.
Hmm.
You were Marianne.
Yeah.
In that moment, she wanted to be the one who was hit if somebody's going to get hit, right? So it is subconscious. It was convenience. Consciously, I think it's just convenience. Like it's closer to the base. You know this strange power which it is that we're trying to even comprehend and
Hmm.
master. So let me figure out from you and get protection from you, because it's certainly been plenty of times where Robin's like, what the fuck is this? Right? She has no idea. She doesn't
Yeah.
have any arcana or anything.
Well, come on. That is exactly the thing with Banny and Bjorn. And it's true because you hear about it from the other team as well. Is that it's like we don't have any magic. Yeah, you do. You have a druid who doesn't actually do
Right.
a lot, but
Not traditional, right? Lower
yeah,
arcana, right?
but he could actually pull some of the same tricks that Blanca does. But
Hmm.
but the fact is we're utterly defenseless without somebody who can see beyond that,
Right,
and
right,
it is so imperative. I mean, Benny has learned how to rely and lean on Blanca in so many different ways,
right.
and it goes both ways. And as
Yeah.
long as there's always that mutual dependence, there won't be this situation where we get bored
Mm,
of each other. And
right.
I think that the the bored of each other has long since passed. It's like familiar in the sense of we know when one person steps forward, the other person steps to the side to protect or whatever else.
Right.
When we first moved away from me being the full time game master and John stepped in and I inhabited Blanca, there was some trepidation inhabiting that role, and it's strange how much I came to rely on these figures, especially Banny, to kind of pull me through those encounters. And the more times we found that synergy in combat or in stressful moments,
Oh man,
Blanca's willpower and her arrogance and her hubris propel her to heights she shouldn't even try to achieve.
True.
But the minute
Yeah.
she runs out of ideas or the solution, Banny just picks up the torch and runs. And it's like, oh, you're
I
here
guess
just
we're
when I
running.
need you. Yeah, yeah. There were several encounters where Keith was just at my wit's end. I'm like, I don't have any more ideas. I've run my internal monologue and narrative to its extreme ends. I'm out of spells. I'm out of ideas. I don't know what to do. And Erik, as Banny, shows up. I got this. Those moments were like galvanizing.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, I don't have to carry the ball all the way to the end zone. I just need to have a plan.
Propel it.
Yeah. And
Right.
so
Right.
the cast of
Just
characters
get
has
10
formed
more yards,
around.
Blanca. Just get 10 more yards.
Yeah. Yeah. When I play her, I wish I were as strong as she is, right? I
Hmm.
mean, this
Or think
character,
she is. Whatever.
she,
Yeah.
as strong as she thinks she is. I mean, she's got limitations everywhere, but she doesn't know it.
Hmm.
And
That
she
No.
doesn't
level of
let anybody
power.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's
and
true.
years ago, I mean, John and I have been playing off and on for decades, right? And we always kind of labeled John as the killer DM because he was always really it was us versus him.
Yeah.
And if you survived the night, yay, I get to keep my character. And it didn't matter how cool your character was, what they did, how much
Hmm.
you kissed his ass. You were going to die if the dice
If
were
the dice made it happen.
yeah. So he's softened a lot, right?
It's
John is
He's
true.
matured. I mean, right?
he's
He's
not that
matured like a
same
fine
guy.
wine.
But my instincts don't change when it comes to him. He's still trying to kill me.
It, I but that's the thing is that if you do let your guard down, it will
Right.
happen.
Right.
It's
Right.
there's no doubt that he will if you did not bring it
Do something.
if you
Right.
did not bring the standard of your play up into that situation, he will chop off your head.
Mhm. Well,
No.
and you need those consequences for any of this to matter. If
Yes.
it's
Right.
all just
Exactly.
floating and inconsequential and it'll be fine tomorrow.
I mean,
Burgundia has consequences.
from the dungeons of Bathory's castle, Chastis.
Yes.
That I mean,
I'm
it's
so
like
sorry that Robin couldn't have participated in that, although it was wonderful how I got to play Morik. I'm so glad that I got to. It was so fun to do that and to protect Blanca in that way. And in other ways, I keep reminding myself in this lap of luxury, no, no, no. Robin is still a fish out of water,
Hmm.
right? Morik is the one who aspired to be like the creme de la creme and be this, right? Robin was the survivor who was gritty, but is enjoying the creature comforts. So she's the one who's more like the fish out of water type, whereas Morik would be like playing it up and saying, "Oh yes, my shoes need some extra. How you say? Yes, polish."
Well,
Yeah. Well, Mark is this gentle giant who's
I didn't mean Morik. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Cornell.
Cornell is
Yeah,
what I
you were
meant.
oh
Cornell. Because I was like, wait, you didn't play Mark in
Everything I said,
that.
Morik, I was meaning Cornell. Sorry. Morik was basically a short-lived love interest of Robin's.
yeah.
Sorry.
But
Mark,
Cornell has gone through many different phases
Yeah.
at this point.
Yes.
yeah, and
He's walked death.
yeah, I love Cornell. He's broken.
It I How is he going to get back in if he does?
I don't think he made his sanity check.
You know, if we were playing Call of Cthulhu, he'd be dead, right? He'd be
Yeah.
insane.
Well, he'd be an
Whatever your
NPC. He'd be an
ultimate state
NPC.
is.
Yeah, his sanity's gone.
But that's the thing. I mean, he went through and did some of the dirtiest work that we had to do in that airfield attack.
Mhm.
I mean,
The
a
wet
whole
work.
bunch of, yeah, the wet work that he did. I mean, Michael did a great job at inhabiting him and acting through him. It's like quietly
Mhm.
snuffing out the life of each of these cultists that were
Pilots.
sitting inside it. Well, it's the pilots and the cultists.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then getting to that point where it's like it's like, I'm gonna have to pay for this later. I'm gonna have to pay for
Mhm.
this later.
Right.
Whatever I'm doing now. And that little connection that Cornell and Blanca had at the end, where Blanca is shooting off in a fixed wing airplane, which is fucking insane.
You know how to do this, right?
Yeah, you know how to do this, right? Yeah, sure, yeah, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad drives a dirigible.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Don't question me. I'm better than you, whatever the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just
Oh
beautiful
gosh.
stuff. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was a great escape from that Colombian base, and the drama was palpable. I mean, every moment of that was just like blood pumping in your ears. You're like, every role mattered, every conversation mattered, every action mattered.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I mean, I took a few sniper shots in that, and which was beneficial as the ranger.
Mhm.
Uh, but at the same time, it's like there was the planes that were left unattended, and we were supposed to blow up all these planes, but not all of them got blown up. And the special ops guys that we were with, some of them went down, some of them died in the attempt of trying to get things done, and one of them broke his neck on fall. But
Yep.
uh, and the other one broke his leg, so we hauled him back. So we did the entire mission, and we are not trained black ops, so it was
Mhm.
just that experience. It was rich. It was very tactical, and it was very, okay, we're in shadows here. Let's protect over here. Let's move up, and when we could fake it, we would.
Mhm.
And then John throws in this whole distraction with the gateway to the Ember Kingdom,
Oh my god.
which
Yeah.
was an
It was the very
awesome.
last thing. It was the very last thing.
Right. It was an awesome scene of consequence where we're basically saying we're going to say goodbye potentially to each other, you know?
Oh, Banny was
Yeah,
downright misty. He did not want to see it happen. He was like,
right.
"No, I'll go. You
We had
guys."
just gone through the carnival,
Oh,
too. That had just basically happened.
which was just brutal. And I mean,
Hmm.
oh,
It was
yeah,
one dark thing
devastating.
after another.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've reached this string of adventures where we were bouncing back between me running adventures and John running adventures, and John's epic, sprawling, horrendous, heart wrenching, terrifying adventures were wearing at all of our characters. Right? We like
Oh,
let's take a break from those for a minute so we can kind of recover our psyches before we go back.
yeah,
Can I regain one sanity point,
Yeah,
please?
yeah.
but at the same time, those adventures are the most memorable ones, right? We're
Hmm.
diving into the heart of darkness, and we don't know if we're going to come out the other side.
And I didn't feel like going into Bathory's castle was a perfect example of that. It's like everything was impenetrable. We're going in completely blind. We have no
Right.
idea what's on the other side of this wall.
Like
And
she's waiting.
she's just
It's
waiting.
good
It's
evening.
yeah,
Well,
Hey,
John
when
is
do you go to the vampire's castle?
at
John is so
You know,
night.
at
good
night.
at doing his research, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's always had this. I mean, even when I first met him and started gaming with him, I remember we would go into the old days of you'd go dungeoneering, right? You go one dungeon room to the next. And he had the unique stance where he could give you descriptions of things that
Matter.
defied the normal
Oh,
description.
Hmm.
Typically a dungeon master, we'd go in and you're like, well, you enter a 10-foot by 10-foot room. There's a
yeah.
well in the middle.
I
There's
search
Right.
all the walls.
somebody's chained to the far side of the room. There was
Yeah.
one feature in there. In John's world, you enter a room and there's a desk on one side. It's covered in papers. There's an inkwell on there. It looks like there's some fresh ink splattered on the desk. So we go over and like, wow, we've never investigated a desk before with stuff on it. Well, I open the drawer. Well, you pull open the drawer inside. He'd have personal effects in there and things that related to the figure that inhabited that room. And we were learning about this future encounter through their stuff. My mind was just like, this is a storytelling environment.
Right.
Tell a story. Don't just fight shit.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's
Just
right.
and it just leads me back to that whole Pathfinder 2 session that we had at SaltCon, where you just sit down at the table. It's like, okay, who do you want to fight through? It's like this is your robot. You're just gonna wear the robot and beat on things. So who do you
Mm.
want it to be? Well, I'll play a cleric because, damn,
Right.
why
Someone
not?
needs healing. Right.
Yeah,
Someone
Yeah.
needs
need to
healing.
heal people.
Well, and if it
Yeah.
just ends up being about robotic fighting to optimize around, eliminating opponents, that's fine if that's what you're into.
Yep,
We've learned that there's another path, and
I mean, originally role playing, well,
it
I guess it
was
depends on
that.
which way you were trying to do it.
It was
Right.
that.
But I feel like there was another school which was more like, hey, we want to do storytelling, but we should probably have some rules for storytelling rather than it just being strictly, I guess I succeed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I mean,
What
rolling.
do you do? Right. Um,
But there are some systems. I do remember. No, Fate is not one of them. What was it? It was not GURPS. It was somebody called. It was a very specific name, and it was generated and resolved in very concise methods. And a diceless game. I can't remember what it was
oh,
called.
diceless. Oh,
Diceless. And
okay.
I'll say that whenever somebody talked about it, it's like, that's ridiculous. How could you even do that? Because somebody's making a decision somewhere.
Right.
But
Who's
I
making the
do,
call?
but I do love the fact that when we play and I roll a one, it
Hmm.
matters. And when I roll a
Right.
20, it matters. And when I roll any number, whether it's a success or a failure, it matters.
And how
And
about
it's
how it just
punctuated.
simply fits into the story? Like, okay, that's the story then. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, I'm writing this puka through
Puka?
the forest because I rolled a 3
Yes.
and I needed something a lot more.
Right.
Whether I could have resisted it or not,
Yeah.
it would have been better for me had I rolled higher. But
And
now
I, yeah.
there's an adventure. I am
Hmm.
sitting naked in a circle of toadstools, and I'm
and
For
if
gonna
no
you're
have
one to
playing
know where you
anything to
are.
do with Fey culture, that's not a great place to be.
yeah. But Benny really doesn't know anything about fake culture other than the fact
Right.
that he's naked, and that's not a great place for him to be either.
Stuff happens to Banny when
When
he's
he's naked,
naked.
that's true.
Um,
Very bad
yeah,
things.
no, that's really true. I guess that I would contribute that I look forward to seeing where the story goes, and I hope that we get to see where Banny has ended up.
Mhm.
I'm gonna
Um,
be wandering in, stinking, probably
Hmm.
covered in dirt, and maybe I have found my clothes, or maybe I've got a bundle or something like that that I'm hauling back. I don't know
Or
what's
maybe
gonna happen.
not.
Or
Maybe you're going to be still there in the toadstool, circle, and it's going to be up to us to like say we have not seen Banny
we gotta
in a
go
day,
find
and
him.
we need to
Yeah,
try to find him.
he'll show up with 2 years of beard growth.
What are you
And
guys
he'll be
doing
three
here?
feet tall, and he'll be
Rip
3 feet
Van
tall.
Banny.
Rip Van Banny, and he'll be 3 feet tall.
Time travel
Hey
has
guys.
never been beyond this group. Just so you know, never been beyond this group. Shadow Empire.
Yeah, agreed.
I have only one complaint.
Hmm.
Robin, I would ask to be a PC in one of these future games. It's like you can have Bjorn and or you can have Robin as an option because there's a lot
Oh,
of
you
history.
you want her as a playable character for conventions?
She's a ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to duplicate too much of
Oh,
the capabilities. So
right. And Banny and Robin are the same, and so okay.
yeah,
Conceptually, everybody knows that you can actually hit things when you roll, and Banny can't. Banny just gets shot.
He's the
He's
diplomat ranger. Yeah, but I'm jealous because I don't have
well,
any
you're all
role.
over the website, right?
Okay, thank you. No one can play me, but no one can play
Yeah.
her, but okay.
Well, when yeah, Robin.
I'm tired
So
of being a diva. Sorry.
Noctrichter, the module. I mean, I'm almost done with Phantom Radio, right? That one should be out in a week or two.
oh, it's so much fun. It was so good.
But I got to go back. I mean, B2 is coming out before B1, which is totally wrong. But
B2?
B1, which is the whole training camp,
Yeah,
it's a
as
bigger
opposed to
module, right?
Phantom Radio because it's more fun.
Yeah. Well, Phantom Radio, it was more concise, right? I
Yeah,
think
Very
it's what
focused. Yeah.
it's
right.
like 50 pages. Maybe it's a little bigger than that. I mean, Noctrichter, the module is already 100 pages, right? I mean, it's huge, and there's a
Yeah,
lot going on. And I forgot how much I rely on that on a regular basis. I mean, every time we go back to Habsburg Castle,
right.
Obelisk,
I mean, it's
Habsburg Village.
it's more like a source book, Keith. It's a
That's
source
true.
book
It
plus.
is.
It's a source book plus a module. Frankly,
Right.
it's not Richter.
Sorry, I just turned to the page and realized, hey, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, take that, and there's like what 5 pages there that kind of define a little bit of Noctrichter.
Yeah, this
Expand
is.
that to it's huge by comparison. I mean,
Right.
I was running something with the other group on Thursday, and they went to Oberisk and they were spending time in the town, and they don't do a lot of downtime activities, as you know. They're more kind of action and
Give me that
combat
expression.
oriented, but they're trying to slow it down and enjoy the slack time.
Good.
And
Nice.
Good
I
for them.
I actually printed out the 70 something pages
Oh,
of
God.
that, so just so I have it on hand, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's useful to have the reminders of what it is, the maps,
Right.
who's there, and all those pieces of parts. And it's reminds me that when I get ready to hand this off to other game masters to run, how hard it is to really, part and parcel out the pieces and parts you need to construct a narrative. I mean, we all know Mousefall, right? That's the beloved bar and that we go to. It's our
Yeah.
hangout.
Right.
We wrested it from the gang.
The gangs, the local gangs, with
Right.
their
The ones
weighted
with the
the weighted bandanas
eh,
that they would
yes,
sap people with.
not bandanas, but yes, yes.
Yeah.
Kerchiefs.
So
Yeah.
it's an earned place, right? The restaurant upstairs, that's the Alamani flavored restaurant. They spent
Hmm.
some time up there. Local hotels, the churches that you guys interact with, the Bahnhof train stations, and all
The
those things.
hotel where there was the ghost.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
I mean, yeah, just saying.
And Benny's only heard of that. He didn't actually participate in that, but
He
he,
was
he
busy running around the castle saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" "Oh, just stuff."
What do you?
Until he got a PC in him,
That's true.
right?
Until a player inhabited Banny. And I'll
Goodness.
just say right off, Keith created a character that was exactly for me. He created he took all these piece parts,
Consciously or unconsciously, we still don't
unconsciously
know.
put together Banny, and it's like I'm looking through the different who do you want to inhabit? Who do you want to step into? And I'm looking at Marek and I'm like, nah. What
Yeah,
about
nah.
what about Cornell? No, a little too scrappy. And then it's like, who's this guy? Oh, this is Banny. And you read up and it's like, oh, he's 45. Whoa, this is really close to home. Oh, he's married, divorced. He was in high society and now he's like exited high society and he's, just kind of
Right.
living a sort of
Living
bachelor life, kind of in between. Ex-military, has a little bit there, but it's just
world traveler,
world traveler, writer, all of these little things, and it's like,
tennis
oh,
player.
good God, yes, tennis. I teach tennis. See, I taught you very well. I'm going to claim that.
Clearly, 2 out of 3 matches each time, right, Blanca? It's like, yeah.
But the beauty of it is that when I picked up Banny and I just stepped into him, it was such a comfortable fit. It was
It was a
a
glove.
ridiculous, yeah, like a glove.
Well, it was late. It was April 2020. We'd kind of
We're basically calling off the entire world at that
right,
point. COVID
and
is full swing.
yeah, we're reconnecting. I mean, Erik and I hadn't really hung out for maybe a year, and we reconnected a few months prior just to kind of start hanging out again. And it really took Dave's passing to kind of just like, here's I reached out to all these old friends to kind of share his loss and so forth. And Erik had just barely reconnected with Dave, and I called John to kind of say, "Oh, Dave's gone. Here, our world has shifted. Our foundation of our gaming crew is gone." And John, who I hadn't really played with, I mean, we'd had cameos from him, right? He'd show up every 3 years, and we'd do a little short stint or something.
Yeah.
And but before that, it's been 20 years since we'd run anything of length, and now we dropped in wholeheartedly
Just
into this escapism, right? We were running from the loss of a dear friend, the collapse of the world as we know it, the inability to go anywhere, and we just dropped into Burgundia.
it was
Well put.
essential, absolutely
Well put.
essential, because my mental well-being was completely shot at that point as it was, and to have a place to put all of my thoughts and all my energy and all my efforts and the amount of writing I did in that short period of time. I hope it comes back eventually. I really wish I could just ignite that easily, but man,
Well, so much of the writing generated with even just present company, right? Filled our journal logs with adventure.
yeah.
And those, every one of those words fueled imagination and supported what we were doing. I would go back and reread journals 2 and 3 times just to re-inhabit that space. I mean, the fact that we're now broadcasting and every word is captured, every gesture is captured, and we can go back and rewatch it. eh, that's really cool.
Right.
But I almost like the interpretation we did that would boilerplate it down to the most
Sure.
essential part of it.
And give you the mind's eye too, I would say, because when you're reading something too, you get to interpret it and visualize a
Oh
bit
yeah,
different.
I would check the site daily to see if somebody had posted, right? And when they did, didn't matter what was going on in my life. Full stop. I've got a journal to read.
I knew at least I had one like. Someone cares about what I'm writing.
Click.
Well, and I
Smash that
think as
subscribe button.
writers, we all got better in that process. I mean, when we
Yes.
first started out, I go back and read some of those early journals.
Ooh,
They were
it's
pretty
rough.
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 Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
you're talking
even
about pre-Notch Richter too.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
even the later ones, right? I go back and read them like, man, we could have used an editor, but the heart, the emotion, the passion was all there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If
True.
if you had history with it, you were invested. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest problem is making that history available for other people too.
I wouldn't call it a problem. I would call it love. I mean,
It
like,
well,
right?
it's the amount of engagement. We looked at
Yeah.
this and we could see past the artifacts because we were already invested.
Mhm.
Yes.
We had, I mean, like we were having at the SaltCon convention,
Uh,
everybody has a character in front of them, and when they would pick up a character, they would say, "What about this one?" And I'm like, "Let me tell you about Elspeth." And I would go in and start
Did you get a
talking
little
about.
tear? And she's dead
I,
now.
I can't fully, and so but I would turn into in the source book. I would go and I'd find the picture, and it's like, here, read
That's
this,
Elspeth.
and you'll know who I'm talking about at that point
Right.
because this is
You
Elspeth.
know, that's
Or
so awesome because, like, right? I mean, to me, whether you want to use a Game of Thrones analogy or what have you, because there's a lot of depth, and that's what makes it so freaking awesome, is because, like, oh, this is not cardboard cutouts. No, it is not cardboard cutouts.
yeah,
And the more depth that you bring it and interpretation that you bring to it, then it's just all the more awesome. So, that's what it's about.
yeah. Well, and characters. I mean, Keith, you nailed it with the depth of these characters. And while PCs do inhabit some of them, you've generated most of these NPCs. These are
Mhm.
all just an ensemble of different people
Yeah,
with different
actually, if you
motivations and
think
different.
about that's actually I didn't think of that before. Wait a moment. Actually, the three main characters who we speak of, all three were originally NPCs. Blanca, kind of Bjorn,
Bjorn
right? He
Bjorn was crafted
borderline. He
by
was intended
John.
as a PC for
Yeah,
John to be able to
John came
play.
in late and generated him.
Yeah,
So, but he gave me like a 3-page
intro.
character background. I mean, Bjorn was baked before he even hit the pavement.
I only worked on a page, and then Banny, who was
Yeah,
an NPC as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
yeah. With just this lovely little bits and pieces that you could take and munge together and shake around and say this is a person. And
Yeah.
it gave me enough to go off of it. Well, especially because it was so close
Mhm.
to the heart, and then we could just launch
Well,
off into space.
and really, after Noctrichter and Phantom Radio, New Chattel is like the adventure.
Oh,
That was like multi-layered. I, I spent a day in New Chattel, and I spent the day the same way you guys did. I arrived by train. It was after dark, and kind of fumbled through the streets. And being able to retell the magic of that exploration and capture it was just magical. I get to relive
Hmm.
going there
yeah.
through your eyes, and that's the hard part. I'm like, how do you give that sense of place to someone who's never been there?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well,
Beyond like a picture or two and paragraph description said
It
out
doesn't
loud.
cut it, right? I can give you a map that's fully detailed, and I could write up every building in there, and it would just be too much to read.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting through all that and finding the moments that we managed to create. I mean, much of that was on the fly. It was jazz, right? When you guys were tracking down the guy that was bitten and
Oh,
transformed in his own household, and you had
oh,
to put him down, and his family's in the next room. I'm like,
and
oh my
we
god.
came out in just viscera. We're just covered and just gross. This poor man, and it's like when you look inside the room, he's just blown to pieces. We just shot him up, and that's what it looked like because
It
they
looked like a
didn't.
murder scene,
Yeah,
and it was really protecting his family and the city from an eventual nightmare.
yeah, he was a werewolf. He was turning into a werewolf as we were there, and we almost got to it in time. We
Yeah.
almost, but he did not swallow the belladonna, and therefore, and he had it in his mouth, and Bjorn had clamped his mouth shut, but couldn't hold him, and then he just went, "Rah!" and just wolfed out right there, and
I mean, whenever have we seen in movies or anywhere else where somebody is turning and you're holding them when they start to shift? You're like,
oh,
no.
oh, no, not now, not now. We were so close to having it all taken care of, and it was infuriating because the defiance of the Calderari, who this was squarely on their shoulders because
Mhm.
they did not take care of their own, and that was going to kick off into something else. So we were protecting them by removing this threat, but then also you've got the vicar. What was he? Or
Yeah.
Monsignor, the Monsignor, and he was in the church, and he's doing something to provoke these two things, and this poor man who is in the middle of this, he was kind of a dick though from what it sounded like, so I wouldn't say that it's apologetic, but he's kind of a
Yeah.
dick too.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, how long ago was that? How long ago? And yet, so I can't remember the wolf game that we played where people turned into werewolves in Gen Con, but I can remember the fact that Blanca pulled the final shot on the werewolf with a Faust pistol. It basically burst his head open because she got that last magical shot that tipped him over. It
I forgot all about that.
I it's so the things that are imagined are lodged deeper in my head than the
Yeah.
things
That
that
was
I've
in
actually
that was in
experienced.
the Cardinal's office, right?
No, that was in that when we killed the wolf. She shot the last. That was the last shot. That was
Hmm.
the husband of the people in the next room.
Oh, in the bed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I was more my memories circulate around the whole post office interaction.
that was amazing.
That was probably I loved the moment. I mean, you guys had set up this great ambush. So Ken, just kind of for your background, they'd been chasing this figure. So the Cardinal is a doppelganger,
Oh, Cardinal. It wasn't Monsignor.
and he's been inhabiting the office for 6 months since the real Cardinal went to the a religious enclave and was replaced on the way back by this doppelganger. So now the doppelganger is inhabiting the Cardinal's office. Well, the Cardinal had had some issues in the past with uh, a local Aaron Paul. Uh, Aaron Paul was this puppet master who had basically pulled a lot of strings and was lording all this information over this doppelganger. I'll turn you out. I will expose you. All these things. And so the doppelganger was kind of stuck. He wanted to continue in his role. He couldn't take out Aaron Paul because he didn't really have anything over him, because Aaron Paul had the ability to suppress the doppelganger's mind reading ability for 30 minutes at a time. So every time Aaron would come to visit the Cardinal, he'd put up this mind blank so that he couldn't read anything about Aaron Paul. And he would manipulate the doppelganger the whole time and then leave. And so the doppelganger is kind of just like, I don't know what to do with this guy. Well, the party eventually takes out the doppelganger, but now Aaron Paul's on the
It's
lam,
in,
right?
yeah, it's in the
And they're like,
wind.
we got to shut this guy down. They figured out through church records and some other stuff that he'd had some accounts and he was trying to escape. So they were going to ambush him at the post office because he had.
We knew that that word would have traveled, that he was going to try and leave town, but he had a home that he was renting in the area, and so we went to the home. We kicked in the door. Actually, Bjorn kicked in the door. I went in through the back door, scared the occupants, and we found that they were handing a check off to him, but it was in a post office box down at the lake, along the lake, edge of the lake. And ferries would come
So now
into.
they've got the upper hand, right? So
We
they
know he's going
know
to go over
he's going
there.
to collect his checks at the post office. So now they've got an ambush. So Cornell, Bjorn, Benny, and Blanca all set up around the post office, and they have the idea that we'll put Blanca inside because we want her to put a wizard mark on the.
On a message or a note or something.
So
Send
we
him some mail.
because we don't know who
Right.
this guy is, we don't know what he looks like, we just know where he's going to be. So we're going to mark this thing and then trail him.
Good.
So Banny and Bjorn are across the street in their car, watching the front, and Cornell is at the back watching the back door. And we're getting you know how we just banter during the course of the evening and how
Sure.
Bjorn and Banny just kind of go at each other. Well, in the middle of that, they look over and they're kind of waiting to see what goes. And I have Cornell come out the front door, having walked through the inside, and shrug,
Mm-hmm.
"Where's Blanca?" And everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Tables just flipped, right?
Right.
We had the upper hand, and now we've lost a party member.
Mm-hmm.
And it
That's
was
great.
unglued. I think the next 3 hours were the most tense moments in this whole
Oh,
campaign.
oh, we knew we were going to lose her forever if we didn't figure it out then.
Right.
What had happened is he had come
The
in.
doppelganger?
No,
No,
the
this is
Aaron Paul. So Aaron Paul is he's a bard.
Oh.
you would equate him to be like Blanca's counterpart, because Blanca is all about mind and manipulation and so forth.
Sure.
Aaron
But
Paul
there's the
was
bard.
that, but he was
He was a few levels
above it,
higher. He was
above
he
and
was
beyond.
he was tough. So he walks in, and I roll to kind of see if he picks up on the environment. I rolled a natch for him, and I rolled a 1 for Blanca.
Oh God.
So she completely missed him coming in. He
Mm-hmm.
spots her, and he charms her. So now she's his pawn, and she says, "Come with me, little girl." All right, and they just walk out together. And I had these guys roll a perception, and they both blew their rolls. So she and he walked right past them. I'm like, "Oh my God, we're off, right? We're gone. This is going somewhere." And the ferry had just pulled into the dock when they came to realize that their companion was missing. They didn't know whether he was getting on the ferry, if he'd escaped in a car. They had no idea. This guy was in the wind. So
Right.
they had to gamble, where do we go? So
Where would you
Cornell
go?
stayed on the docks and checked the land while Bjorn and Banny jumped on the ferry. If he wasn't on the ferry, now it's
It was,
Cornell
All
yeah,
against
by himself.
yeah,
Right.
but
yeah.
there was just a
But she
moment
was
though,
on the
because
ferry though, right?
we went up to the ticket master, and there's two people there, and it's like I started asking around, hey, have you seen a girl about this tall,
Right.
red hair? I mean, just unmistakable, because everybody
Sure.
around there was dark haired and
Right. Yeah.
little
Exactly. Red
sallow
hair
faces.
is rare. Right.
And so we started, as I was asking around, you talk to the woman at the ticketing booth, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then a guy behind her chimes in and says, oh yeah, girl with red hair, she was with a guy like this tall or something. It's like, yeah, where'd they go? It's like, oh yeah, they bought tickets. And it's like, get out there, get on the ferry. So I bought 2 tickets. I handed one to Bjorn. We got on the ferry. So, and what ensued was this cat and mouse chase around this ferry. We're standing in different places. We're moving around, and
as the ferry's going across the lake or
yeah,
whatever.
and it's like we know we have a limited amount of time, but we're
Right.
pressing it. We're pressing him. We're searching everywhere. We're
Sure.
looking for a girl with red hair. And the
Right.
fact is that it's really hard to disguise that. So it's like every time we'd get close, something would happen, or the whether it was an illusion or whether there was something else. But as we kept on pressing him, he was having to burn spells
Sure.
that whole time. And then it's like at one
To
point,
keep her under control and to keep it like under wraps. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like me and Bjorn are sitting at the back of the boat and we're having some beers and there's this like music going along and it's like, what's going on? And it's like stop and go, shit. How close are we to the dock? And what's going?
Yeah. So they'd keep doing it because he would put a spell on them that kind of made them forget why they were there, right? So they'd be like, we're just on a boat ride.
Yeah. It's like every so often we're just like kind of diddling around and then suddenly, wait, oh god damn it, we got to get back, we got to find Blanca. And it just kept on being this one point that we would always come back to, and finally we see her walk off the boat. And I look and I'm like, one of us should stay on the boat just in case that is a fake.
Sure.
And so I was the one who ran off the boat and Bjorn stayed on the boat. And Bjorn kept moving around and kept moving around. I went and I walked up beside her and I turned her and it was Blanca and she was told to get off the boat.
Sure.
And I like kind of snap her out of it, slap my, just clap my hands in front of her and she's like startled. It's like, and I just reached over and gave her a hug and then I watched the boat pull away and start heading off. And then I hear it, and it's great because Benny at this point knows that he's going to have to get to the next station. It has a few stops along the way. The ferry has a few stops. So he starts going, I start taking a cab with Blanca, who is a little shaken now because she got
exactly.
played.
I was just over there. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, she got the things she has done to everybody for her whole life got done to her.
Yeah. She's the master and she completely got outclassed. And so it was like this, it was the starting of this whole evolution that we started seeing Blanca go through, because she'll get a little punchy at first and then she'll like kind of pull back and go, oh shit, this is real. But as we're driving along, we see the boat and it like the engines stop and then you see a splash and stuff happen, but it's like you're hearing noise on the side, but it's like they turned off the engines and something splashed into the water, and then you see a bear coming up to the shore. So we stopped the cab and we met Bjorn and we threw some money in the cab and he said he was going to stay, the bastard, and he did not stay. He just took off.
The tip clearly wasn't big enough.
We always tip really well, somewhat.
We think we do.
Yeah, but Bjorn came up on shore. He had chomped the guy, and the guy was sinking into the water. And I was like, we should check to see what his ID says. We can go to his house and everything. And I was playing all investigator stuff, and
right.
And at that point, it's like, just let it go. We're done. So we all got in the car and we went back to the hotel and we wrapped up the mission. Yes, of course, of course. But it was.
And John nearly perished in that adventure too. He almost drowned, even though because in order to finish this guy off, he had to
sink
down
with him. Yeah.
And do the suffocation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was. So he barely made it to shore, transformed back to himself when these guys walked up on him.
And acted normal. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got that good.
Yeah, that was Neuchâtel was a very gelling moment for our little group. Good times. You know what? It's way too late. But
I know.
this
It
has
is.
been great.
I got early work tomorrow too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, 8:30. That's you have earlier work.
Mm.
I get to look forward to next week though.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Yes.
See you guys. Thanks,
Enjoy.
Eric. Thanks, Keith.
Bye.
Bye.